Hi, I'm Rick Steves with more of the best of Europe. This time, we're back in Berlin, the fastest changing big city in Europe. If you haven't been here lately, you won't recognize the place.